Hey, welcome back to the Dargon Den. Join us today as Nate and I talk about mini sessions and one-on-one sessions.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about one-on-one sessions and mini sessions and all the details about them.
So what is a mini session versus one-on-one session?
A one-on-one session is exactly as explained, it's just you and then the player. A mini session, on the other hand, is also kind of self-explanatory as well. It is usually a smaller group than what's your regular group that day, and also can be shorter. It can also be longer, though, in some cases. It depends on how much role-playing gets done.
Yeah, it could be a side adventure where there's just a couple players because somebody can't be there, or what Nate said, it could just be a shorter session. One-on-one sessions too, they could be a one-on-one campaign, right? They could be a campaign you're running for your girlfriend, friend, whatever. It's just you and one other person. There's nothing wrong with a one-on-one game altogether, right?
Yeah, at first it's a little daunting, especially for a lot of other DMs I noticed. I started off that way, so I kind of went in backwards. I grew up with one player, and then I got a whole bunch. But if you can make it with somebody that you really enjoy, and that, you know, as long as you guys connect, you guys can create an awesome story. And there is a lot of advantages to a one-on-one session versus having a larger group.
So when do you like to use one-on-one sessions? You have a unique way of using them, or at least I've never worked with a DM who did that the way you did. So when do you decide to do a one-on-one session with your players? What are some of the situations?
Okay. Actually, I'm gonna hit this both ways. I'm gonna talk about first which are kind of same for both mini sessions and one-on-one, and then I'll talk about one-on-one in particular, which makes it special. So using smaller group sessions are really good for either when the group is broken apart, when you guys are having some downtime activities in a city or just an area that you guys would like to explore further, when you guys are building backstory or more character development that might not be too interesting to everybody else. And another really key one is sorry, dying here. Another key one is when it is a diplomatic situation. Not everyone in the group is going to be into that, and especially when running any diplomatic games, if it's the entire campaigns on that, I'd really recommend having a smaller player base. It makes things a lot easier and a lot more interesting for everybody versus like a regular campaign. And so, I'm done. So there's a time when I specifically use a one-on-one session is when I'm really either trying to target the person's backstory and try to hit them directly. You're more prone, if the characters are comfortable with you, to get more emotion out of a one-on-one game. So I use it for romantic situations, or I use it when there might be a great loss or a very important situation that only pertains to that one certain character's backstory, not the entire group. I will warn you on that. If you just have one session make the entire group's, or one player making the entire group's decision, you can run into a few problems with that and understandably annoyed players. And I also use a one-on-one session to either bring in a new player, or maybe when a player has been in a hiatus and hasn't been with the group for a bit, to kind of bring them back up to speed. One-on-one session is just a really great tool if you can use it and find the proper player to really see into what they want. It gives them, well, I'll explain why we do that a little bit later. But a mini session, on the other hand, honestly, it really hits some of the best things told is when you're trying to bring two characters together on a closer level. So I have a player, which is Chris, Shay, and my girlfriend, Emily, and they are going to be going together soon to do a mini session with each other to build each other's backstory together for why they knew each other and why they became such close friends, and to also kind of help them role play.
Yeah. Like in a lot of situations, I think we see a lot of games out there where you start at a higher level, and we kind of started with an assumption that we knew each other and already, but we didn't really ever sit down and build that. So this will really give us a great opportunity to make that make sense for both of us and give us something to build on as we move forward in the story. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's a really great way to use a one-on-one session as a tool to help with that. So I think that's one downfall of like the one shot, which, you know, we didn't, it's not a one shot for us, but, you know, a lot of times in one shots, you're just throwing everybody together and you don't have that opportunity. Hopefully you've got a lot of action to make up for it, but this is really great to be able to go back and kind of set our relationship and figure out what it is. I can hardly wait. Like, I feel like we've been talking about it forever. Hopefully we'll do it soon.
Hopefully. Yes, I'm super excited to get it done.
So I think that one way that that you've used the mini session has been to drive the story forward too. So Nate already mentioned that we've used it when we've had missing players. So a while back we had a player we still weren't sure. He's actually not playing with us anymore, but we weren't sure at this point what was happening, and we had things that we wanted to accomplish as players to prepare for the journey ahead. So, you know, my character Shay wanted to visit the local university and learn more about how she could use plants and things, and you know, like for healing and that sort of thing. And we knew we were going to go into a colder region, and the season was changing. So we had a character in particular who was from a warm climate who needed warmer clothes, et cetera, et cetera. So we've alluded to this shopping session before, but I think that part of this was that we did need to drive the story forward, but at the same time, we didn't want to leave a player out and potentially do something that would affect the story in a way that, you know, that he might not be happy with, that we made a decision without him. So the mini session can be really good for continuing to move the story forward. And these were all things we felt like we needed to do. It also gave us some really good role-playing time to bond as a group. And it was a really great, we had, I think, 2 sessions like that we spent a lot of time at the university, and we spent a lot of time shopping on one of them. And that really, you know, bonded us as a party and gave us a lot of downtime type role playing to really get some conversation flowing. And I think it really helped us since then, as far as how we're role playing more in our regular sessions since then. I feel like it kind of helped open the dam, if you will, on our some of us were, me in particular was a little more, I was still a little uncomfortable with it. And I feel like it helped us develop as players, but it also helped drive the story forward without doing anything that would maybe be negative for the person who couldn't be there. So, yeah.
He missed stuff that he didn't really want to be there for, I'm sure. Which is really weird, though. Actually, the session turned out to be a lot of fun, and it was all about shopping, essentially.
It did.
It was weird.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. So how do you use the sessions?
Okay. So I'm going to go first with the 1 versus 1. And how I use them, and also pairs with why I use them. As I kind of explained before, it allows you to get a little bit more personal. And it handles sensitive events, especially when pertaining to the character's backstory, a lot better. For one, a lot of the times people, well, it depends on your characters, I guess, but some of them have very long and drawn out backstories with a lot of loose ends. And there's a lot of story in it that you guys can kind of all explore as a group. But sometimes some of it is really that only pertains to the player. They also will end up building personal relationships as they go through with certain NPCs. So Hema, one of my players, she actually somehow, wooed at first originally a bad character into liking her. And so now she has a romantic interest. I would not, and I don't know about you guys, but I personally would not want to play a romantic game with my entire party while they're all standing on the side twiddling their thumbs as Hema's trying to dance with this prince knight. So that is honestly how I use the one-on-one sessions, especially for events like that. Another thing is that I really like using them as exposition for maybe more information that they might only a certain character is really interested in. So Shay, one thing I use one-on-one is to also not only building exposition of their background, but also build exposition of their own characters in general and how they grow. See, there's this thing called leveling up we have in D&D, which is not like real life. I can go to the gym and I will slowly progress my strength until I get stronger. But in D&D, you have this weird thing where it's like, oh, I work on in the gym for, 20 hours, and then suddenly I can now lift 10 times more. And there's no inclination of power. It's just sudden bump. So I use my one-on-one session to kind of explain for why some of that might happen. So for Shay, she might go to the university, and she might start learning some things that might grow later on, like the ability to use some potions, or maybe she got a new weapon and then she was trained with said weapon, not that she just kind of bumped up and just started using it out of nowhere. Or maybe my wizard might go to university and talk to one of the mentors and figure out more about the power that she's using, and might even get some lessons and the ability to kind of figure out that she might be able to do something more now. So another way I use one-on-one and mini sessions, both these go hand in hand, is I use it to teach some newer players, or maybe even some older players, about some things that they might need help with. A lot of times I wouldn't press it on them until they ask for help. So Hema, one of my other players, again, as an example, she had a hard time role-playing. So I took her to the side and I did one-on-one sessions with her, help building her and help talking to her as an NPC. And since it's one-on-one, she doesn't mind that I stop for a second and give her some tips really quickly so it doesn't break immersion for everybody else. It allows it to kind of, with practice, they'll be able to build themselves without having to worry about the group looking at them like, what are you doing? It also gives the player, that one player, the spotlight, which is very hard to have in a full session, because usually you have the more talkative players and then you have the more quiet, reserved ones. But a one-on-one session gives them time to fully explore their character and fully explore what they would say alone. And this is something I use for both for mini and one-on-one, again, is also when you're having a bigger group, it's a lot harder to put out a lot more detail. Usually you kind of have to be a little quicker with it. You have to give the players a smaller amount of time, allowed amount of time to be able to talk about what moves they want to make. But when it's a one-on-one game, there can be a lot more time spent on the moves and the actions. Fights can last longer without feeling like they're being drawn out, and you can be more cinematic with it. It's a lot easier to be. There's less people asking questions. One person's just going in and at it just at one time. It's pretty awesome, actually, if you can get a good one-on-one session going, or a mini session.
In the home group that I play with, the face-to-face group, our DM pulls us aside a lot and tells us, like what Nate was just talking about, when it's something that only they would know. So there's something going on with your character. Maybe you've gone off. It's the ranger has gone off to scout, and so we're not there. So rather than put us in a situation where we would maybe have a potential of being meta, he removes us from the room, and then we come back and we have the opportunity to share or not share with our group. So I feel like, for online, which is what our group is doing, that Nate's running, anytime that you'd have a situation where you would take a player aside and have that personal interaction, and it's of a significant length in particular, then that could be a one-on-one session. And same thing if a couple people go off. We had a situation where Shay stayed behind at her village and the other players left and went back to the city, and they had their own mini session, and I had a one-on-one session. So that's another opportunity, as he said, splitting off groups. So I feel like that's a really effective way, is to just, to do it in an aside. I've even done some just text-based one-on-ones with Nate, where, we just have a super quick, exchange of, hey, this came up in this situation, what would you do? Maybe have me roll some dice. And we, 10, 15 minutes of just exchanging the idea via the text, rather than an actual session on camera.
All right, so mini sessions really shine when, as I explained before, diplomacy. and I'll kind of build into this a little more. Generally in a group, not always, but when diplomacy arises, sometimes the entire group might want to be there. Sometimes some of them don't care as much. You almost always have the face. You have somebody that's going to be doing a lot of the talking. We especially have this in our group. We have somebody who came from a noble background, so they know how to speak these type of things. A mini session, maybe when some other players go do another mission or do something off on the side, a mini session would do really good in this circumstance to allow the players that enjoy really hard diplomacy, really hard schemes, and higher up things dealing with maybe groups or leaders or something that happens to a city. This works exquisite for them. Shay is a good example. She might go with a small group, just being her and Hema, and go talk to her elders about what they're going to do and move to. Now, the rest of the group don't really need to be there for this little mini session. It really has nothing to do with them in a sense, other than if they decide to follow along. And they might have no voice or say in it, or just frankly do not care. So since this is left up only to 2 players that do, this would be a really good experience for them to also talk to NPCs and really make an impact in the world, and also allow them for them to just get more detail themselves that they might only care about. Mini sessions also work very similar to a one-on-one session, where it allows you to build relationships with NPCs, but now you just throw in an extra player in there. So they're going to have contact with another player, where they're going to be working together to try maybe changing an NPC's mind, or they're just having a one-on-one discussion with the NPC as a small group. This not only helps build an NPC and player relationship, it also helps build a player and player relationship. One of the other things I like to do too with mini sessions, as explained, is use for them the shopping. Now, shopping sounds very plain at first, but this is where the players choose some things that they like. A lot of players like customization. Allow them to go to shops and explain what they want. Now, everyone's going to be interested in this, as I explained. It'd also be very hard with a larger group. Sometimes it's good to split them off into 2 smaller groups, where they will head into the parts of the city that they are interested. Maybe Torvald is interested in the part of the city that has the big forge, and they build all the weapons and armors, while Shay and Emily might be more interested in finding better clothing and getting a new mount, as they are both people that enjoy animals, and I'm starting to see that they also all enjoy clothes. a lot. And then the last thing that a mini session is also really good for is player versus player situations, where 2 players are trying to go at it for some reason. Not specifically saying fighting, but they might be going at each other in certain feats. Maybe Hema is trying to prove that she's more dexterous than Shay is. Now, this might be good in a big group, but it also kind of makes sense to have them kind of go off on their side. That way they can just interact with one another without any other true distractions.
Or to, like, a player might have an issue with something that, you know, a party member might have an issue with something that somebody else in the party did, and they might want to have a conversation with them without they might want more information. They might want to clarify before they spill to the rest of the party. So that's another. We had a really, really intense exchange in one of those shopping ones, where we learned more about one of the characters, and there was a lot of tension there for a bit, and it was really great. That was 3 of us, I think, but I could see that happening with just 2 as well. I could see, you know, a couple people going aside and saying, hey, do we really want this person joining our party? Or do you really think you handled that the best way back there? What am I missing? Stuff like that. So
I told you, shopping can be fun.
Shopping can be a lot of fun. Shay likes bookstores.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe all that just came. Now you remind me, like, all that just came from a stupid shopping trip. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And then the last question: how you run them successfully? And I think I have an idea how to help explain this. Shay, what did you like about what I did when I gave you the one-on-one session? How did it feel different than a regular sized game per se?
So I think the big thing is it really gives you a chance to explore your character. So I really enjoyed being able to, particularly the ones in my village were really great, because I got to really flesh out more of what life might like be like in the village. I got to experience tradition of my tribe without having everybody else be bored. And to really kind of role play that day-to-day life that I feel like it helps solidify who Shay is and my, you know, my vision of her, where I think interacting with it made it easier for me to really be solid about who she is versus just thinking about it on paper. And there's probably a lot of people who are great at that, but I don't think I'm one of them. So that was really, really cool. And then it gave me, you know, every player likes that chance to be in the spotlight and have a chance to really shine. And actually that's entirely what a one-on-one session is. So, you know, I got to really showcase some skills. I shocked the heck out of my GM with some of the choices I made. And he, in turn, got some real emotion out of me. I remember one of them in particular where I was in tears. And, you know, so I was really able to connect and truly get immersed and be in the moment in a way that I didn't really have in the bigger group sessions.
Yes. So I'm going to kind of expand upon that. So how you can make that happen? Well, generally when you're in a larger group, GMs quickly figure out something called pacing, in which they have to kind of limit the player's ability to speak to NPCs and one another. Sometimes you have to start pushing things forward, especially if some of them are wimps and have to go to bed at a really early time, such as one of my players have to. So a one-on-one session kind of takes that all away. As she was explaining, she got to talk to other NPCs and explore the boring parts of life. And remember, being a DM, I hate to say this, most of the time, your enjoyment comes out from the enjoyment of others. We're kind of a little masochistic in that way. We do a lot of work so that way other people can play our games and be happy, and we can just kind of sit back and know that we did something. Hooray to us. So when in a one-on-one session, you get to allow the players, and I strongly recommend this, do not rush them. Allow them to talk to the NPCs that they are interested in. You don't have to have some big story for a one-on-one game, and you don't have to press it. You can let the players truly explore to their greatest heart's contents because they have nobody else to talk to and make sure that they're okay with this. No longer do they have to worry about the other players being bored or what they're doing or if they're being too selfish with the time. Now all the time is on them. They can truly explore the worlds that they are helping to create. They get to talk to the NPCs that they are truly interested in, and they can now see more detail in a way that they could not do before. So when you're running a one-on-one session, as I explained, give more detail, give more deeper conversations, and allow for them to talk back, to truly talk back.
Yeah, it also, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
No. I was going to say, it also gave me a chance to really bring out the ritualistic side of Shay. So she's a druid character. She's one of her character traits that I had chosen was that she's, you know, dogmatic. She's dogmatic in her thoughts and philosophy. So she does a lot of very ritualistic things. Even the act of making a cup of tea is very, you know, think geisha. You know, she's got this method and this way that she goes about it, and it's very prayerful and meditative. It's not just that she's making the tea, it's part of her her process of connecting with her gods and her deities. And it gave me a chance to paint that picture for Nate so that he could have a clear picture of, you know, what is Shay's, you know, routine and how does she approach this, and it set the scene for some things later, where I actually sent him a text recently with just this long ritual that I did after a crazy battle, and you know, and I was able to do that, and it made sense for him. And part of that's because I'd had that opportunity. I think it's important to understand that characters don't always need something going on. It's okay for us to have time to just be alone as a character and interact with our world and our our religions or our, whatever it is that's important to us, whether it's a hunt or I could see a ranger doing like a scouting mission or something like that. So, I got to get some ritual in there, and I got to really have time to just let that grow and be a really clear vision. And to paint it for the DM so that he knows how to make space for that within a larger section, and to make decisions about when that might be good for the rest of the party to observe something or how that would look.
You actually bring up a really good point. It does allow us DMs to learn more about the player, which is also something I'm going to spend on too. It also allows for you to know how their characters are changing in the story. I would recommend that you every once in a while throw in a one session so you can see how their characters' personalities are changing. So that way you can even make more backstory or another smaller sideline specifically for them. It magnifies everything essentially.
Yeah.
So I think we hit it.
Are there any key points that people should consider that you would want to throw out there? Simple bullet points?
Well, to sum everything up, I guess, whenever there's a time that you want to magnify something, give them time to explore, add more detail. You're able to do more in a smaller session point. Know when it's also useful, though. You don't need to also always have one-on-one sessions. There's a lot of things that can be done in a large group pretty well.
Right.
So, yeah, have fun. Try it. That's the only thing I can tell you to do is just try it. Take my advice, use some part of it, throw away what you don't like, mix it around a little bit. You'll find your own way, as long as your players are happy. If
this is a tool you already use and use it in a different way than we talked about, we'd love to hear your comments below, even if in the same way. So do share your thoughts about mini sessions and one-on-ones.
Or if you disagree with us and want to call us stupid,
yeah,
by all means, also comment that too.
We'll take it. We hope you found this informative and useful, though, and thank you so much for joining us. As always, please give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video, and let us know in the comments as well. And don't forget to subscribe and share.
Thank you, and hope you join our little Dargon family.
And until next time, get out and get gaming.
Yeah, you said it.